Final of Florida Gators 51, Ole Miss Rebels 35 from Vaught Hemingway Stadium in Oxford, Mississippi. It's something to pay attention to, it's something to build on because it's definitely something to build on. Matt Corral had a fantastic day. The offense put over 600 yards on the Vonnet Gator defense, which is supposed to be pretty good. The passing number of about 443 yards, added 170 yards rushing. The story of this game kind of turned in the second quarter. There was a point in the second quarter where through a quarter and a half, Ole Miss had 38 plays. Throughout the remainder of the half, Florida would score 21 points, including the first possession of the second half, and Ole Miss would have 4 plays. So that is something you need to pay attention to. That is where this game was lost, from about the 7-minute mark of the second quarter to about the 14-minute mark of the third quarter. That 21-0 run was the difference in the ballgame. Now, we have a lot to build on. We talked about this game played out almost exactly like we warned you about. We looked at things like the sloppiness in play, the lack of a spring training, the lack of a fall camp. That all came into play. You saw the defensive problems and everybody's going to freak out about them. But the reality is the secondary missed half of fall practice, which is 1 practice a day, 20-hour-a-week rule. Missed half of it with COVID. And the defensive line, that's a situation we're only going to be able to recruit our way out of. I mean, that's just the facts there. But, you know, they didn't have the highest time of possession. They got to a point where Florida got the lead where they decided to just bleed the clock. But Matt Corral finishing 22 of 31, 395 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. That interception was on a deflected pass thrown to the correct receiver. So that's not really his fault. But there was a point in the game, it was probably the second or third drive, I can't remember, where Ole Miss had a 3rd and 19 and Matt Corral threw a rope to complete it. And from that point on, he was a different quarterback. He started to relax. You can tell this is something about confidence. And, you know, he missed a flare pass or a flat pass. He missed a flat point. He missed a flat pass. Sorry. As things started playing video all of a sudden on the computer when I was reading stats for it too. That allowed him to calm down. That allowed him to get in the game. And after that, he was quite good. He just grew into the game. He didn't wilt under the pressure of the game. It was really a nice day for Matt Corral. And you have a chance to build on this for week 2. Because in week 2, you're not going to have a quarterback that is the best in the conference. You're not going to have a coaching staff with that much continuity. It's going to be a level less of experience for this game. And plus, the improvement from week 1 to week 2 will be pronounced. Even more so than a normal year, because the 40 hours a week of lack of film and practice time, it causes you to look at it a different way. It causes personnel mistakes. You see the reason why coaches are notoriously slow decision makers. Now you look at the defense, and this is a credit to basically our coaches and the experience they have. In the first half, we were Swiss cheese. Florida went up and down the field scoring touchdowns. In the second half, it became field goals. And that changed a little bit. And you saw the third down where they called Momo Sanogo for roughing the passer when it really wasn't. And that was a bad call. But you can see the progression of the defense. You can see the progression of the offense. 600 yards against the number 5 team in the country is never a bad thing. Never a bad thing. Even though we were down about, from the whole second half and throwing the ball a lot, we still ran at about 60% clip. So it's about a 60-40 split. And then we used double moves to go downstairs. You saw a little bit of the jet sweep today, although my favorite play did not make an appearance. Matt Corral ran the ball really effectively. I'm very impressed with how the offense flashed. We are not there. You can see on the jet sweep motion, we're not as fast as we're going to be. It's just waiting. The snaps are a little bit slow. It's just things that are going to affect the timing. But you will see the jet sweeps get better. And once they're operating at full speed, you will see them occupy linebackers more. And you could see from, like we told you about earlier this weekend with Florida's defense, they want you to play in that 15-yard box. And if you can expand that box, they have problems. They're not designed for it. And the Ole Miss offense put up 35 points and 600 yards. And the game ended with Ole Miss on the 1 or 2 yard line. They could have kicked a field goal and covered. They did not. They chose to go for it. They wanted to put the film on tape. You just have it, because this is a work in progress. This is a work in progress. Now, there's many problems with the defense, and if you were a prisoner of the moment type person, you would go down that rabbit hole. But that problem is more due to COVID and lack of time together as a full unit, like Dean Leonard getting cleared Friday morning or Friday night or whatever and practicing with the service team all week and then coming out and playing against Florida, because they're treating this like a developmental season. That whole first possession of the game was honestly hilarious. I enjoyed it very much so. Ole Miss is kind of a made-for-TV team, as they said on the broadcast, but like 619 yards, 35 points against the number 5 team in the country. That is called offensive flashing. The rest of the stuff we can recruit our way out of, but that offense will play. One thing I am a little concerned about is was the over-reliance on Elijah Moore intentional or just a product of the offense? I want to see that throughout the season. Dontario Drummond, 2 touchdowns. Jonathan Mingo had a 2-point conversion. Need to see more out of him. He needs to provide that avenue that it doesn't allow safeties to cheat down on Elijah Moore. Kenny Yeboah, I hope he's okay. A little bit of a back problem that you saw later at the end of the game, because he started to flash a little as well. So offensively, we're going to be fun. 600 yards, 35 points, number 35 team, or number 5 team in college football. It just works. Defensively, we are a work in progress, and this team will go as far as the defense does. You can see the weakness. Defensive line, we're going to have to recruit our way out of it. That's the only path to the end. The secondary, there's a lack of familiarity and a lack of continuity that is to blame, and it comes down to nobody can cover an SEC receiver for 7 seconds. We've got to manufacture pressure on the quarterback, and we will. Because with each rep, with each game, coaches are going to make the decisions in personnel to put the best players on the field. Dalen Gill did not have the best game today. That's okay. It's first game, nerves, whatever. But Jalen Stanley played most of that game. Now, will Jalen Stanley start next week? It's worth paying attention to. Again, we have Kentucky, Terry Wilson. It's going to be a ground and pound. Florida, for everything else, did not run the ball that effectively. It was Kyle Trask and Kyle Pitts and those receivers that did the damage. So Ole Miss loses to Florida 51-35, and they could have covered if they wanted to. But They didn't. You remember this week, if you want hope, this week was designed to protect Florida, Alabama, Georgia, and LSU. That's what this week was designed to do. They can't play cupcakes, so they'll play the teams disadvantaged the most by this COVID situation. So take hope from flashes. Like I said, don't pay attention to the negatives, pay attention to the positives, and celebrate them. 600 yards against Florida, 35 points against Florida. That's not a bad defense. Celebrate it. Matt Corral looks like he's going to be the answer. He put up 340 yards against a good team. He slung it around. Now we were down. The first 4 drives, we got down to the red zone and only scored 2 touchdowns. So it's worth paying attention to things. Once we get more crisp, more developed, we are just going to explode offensively. We have speed everywhere on that side of the ball. Speed everywhere on that side of the ball. On the defensive side of the ball, we need to figure out the defensive line as best we can this season. This season is a developmental year. Use that. And they are. They obviously are. But Ole Miss Rebels lose to Florida 51-35. They could have covered if they wanted to, but in that case, they chose to play to try and score a touchdown. Good for them. And offensively, they really made plays. So it was good to see, and they're going to be a handful for teams this year. There's a lot of hope that can be taken out of that game. It was not the same old. Doesn't matter what they try and do. The defense got better from touchdowns to field goals and should have gotten off the field down 15, but did not. We still have a problem at special teams, but that was recruited. We're giving a scholarship to a kicker next year for a reason. So Florida 51, Ole Miss 35, Ole Miss 600 yards of total offense. They also gave up over 600 yards. So it's a work in progress, but it's something we can look forward to. Hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you Monday on the podcast.